Jesse's jabber with a friendly face. Welcome into your favorite space. If it's on his mind or it's in the air, and you've got a minute, drag up the chair. It's a little bit of this, a little bit of that. Stay a while and enjoy the chair. Jesse's jabber, Jesse's jabber. Time goes by, life goes faster. Take a minute just to clear your head. Maybe there's comfort in the words that he says. Going through life with his kids and his wife. Throws in sports and some PS5. No hot takes, he just shoots it straight. Just a regular guy at the end of the day. If you found your way through the endless noise and clatter, listen in, maybe tell a friend. This is Jesse's Jabber.
The great white whale got new socks and shoes recently, even in the pouring rain. But it's still loaded with baseball equipment, chairs, and water bottles. The 12 are enjoying summer break, even though they spend most days yearning for pool water. With all of us spending more time together, I've noticed that some of the things I find myself saying to them seem very familiar, almost as if I may be repeating something I've heard several times over. Things my dad said to me. The lessons he taught knowingly and unknowingly. And that's what I want to talk about today. Not the obvious lessons. Not necessarily the things our dads told us. The things they were teaching without ever saying out loud. The lessons hidden inside the boring moments. The sacrifices we didn't recognize. The things that only make sense when you're older. This is Jesse's Jabber. Outnumbered, overstimulated, and on the mic. Let's get into it. It's the year 2000. The first Monday of summer break. School's finally out. There are no teachers, no homework, no responsibilities. As far as I'm concerned, life has reached its peak. I got a full schedule planned. Nintendo, music videos, Saved by the Bell reruns, and a bowl of cereal somewhere in the middle. That's the agenda. So, I roll out of bed around noon, shuffle down the hallway, head toward the kitchen, ready to begin what I assumed would be a glorious day of absolutely nothing. And there it is, sitting on the kitchen table, waiting for me. The real to-do list. A handwritten list of chores. The grass needs cutting. The trash needs taken out. The dishes need washing. The living room needs straightening up. And suddenly, my entire summer vacation has been hijacked. To make matters worse, I've slept till noon, which means I'm now racing the clock because Mom and Dad get home about 3:30. Every minute I spend complaining is a minute I'm not working. We've all been there. Maybe not that exact situation. Maybe your lists look different than mine. But all of us have had those moments when our little kid worlds collided head-on with responsibility. At the time, those chores felt like punishment. They felt unnecessary. They felt like adults inventing work just to keep kids from having fun. As a kid, I was convinced my parents spent a significant amount of energy figuring out ways to ruin perfectly good afternoons. But now that I'm older, I've started realizing something. My dad wasn't really teaching me chores. He was teaching me things that looked like chores. There's a difference. Nobody was ever going to care whether I could perfectly mow a yard. Nobody was ever going to interview me about my dishwashing abilities. Nobody was ever going to hand me a trophy because I remembered to take the trash can to the road. The lesson was never the chore. The lesson was the character being built while I was doing it. Looking back, those Saturday mornings in the driveway, those afternoons spent pulling weeds, those moments holding a flashlight while Dad worked on something and telling me for the 10th time to point it in the right direction. They weren't random. There was a curriculum hidden inside those ordinary moments. I just couldn't see it yet. And I think that's true for a lot of us. Some of the most important lessons our parents ever taught us didn't come during a big speech. They didn't happen at graduation. They didn't happen during some dramatic movie moment. They happened in garages. They happened in kitchens. They happened in driveways. They happened while we were rolling our eyes and wishing we could be doing literally anything else. The thing about getting older is that eventually you start understanding lessons that didn't make sense when they were taught. You begin to realize your parents weren't just trying to get through the day. They were trying to prepare you for days they wouldn't be there. For me, the older I get, the more I realize my dad wasn't teaching me how to complete a chore list. He was teaching me how to become the kind of person who handles responsibilities, whether he feels like it or not. And that's a lesson that ages surprisingly well. When you're a kid, responsibility feels unfair. When you're an adult, responsibility is life. Nobody wakes up excited to pay bills. Nobody throws a party because they folded the laundry. Nobody posts on social media because they finished an oil change. But adulthood is built on 1,000 ordinary responsibilities that nobody applauds. Looking back, that's exactly what my dad was preparing me for. At the time, I thought he was teaching me how to mow a yard. What he was really teaching me was how to finish something I started. At the time, I thought he was teaching me how to change the oil. What he was really teaching me was how to take ownership of something and save money at the same time. At the time, I thought he was teaching me how to work. What he was really teaching me was how to show up. The funny thing is that when we're kids, we don't realize we're being taught life lessons. We think we're just being inconvenienced. And honestly, that's probably because children and adults often speak different languages. A parent says one thing, a child hears something completely different. Dad tells you to mow the yard. You hear, there goes my afternoon. Dad tells you to clean the garage. And you hear, this isn't fair. What you don't realize until much later is that he may have been teaching something entirely different than the task itself. And those misunderstandings, they don't stop with chores. Sometimes they show up in much bigger parts of life. Maybe your dad worked long hours. Maybe he missed some games. Maybe he wasn't home as much as you wanted him to be. As a child, all you know is what's right in front of you. You know he's not there. You know he's working again. You know somebody else gets his time today. What you don't know is what's happening on the other side of that decision. You don't know about the bills. You don't know about the stress. You don't know about the worries that keep adults awake at night. You don't know about the sacrifices. You just know he's gone. I think one of the biggest revelations of growing older is discovering how many things our parents protected us from without us ever realizing it. As kids, we assume life's stable because life feels stable. The lights come on, the groceries are there, the mortgage gets paid. Christmas shows up every year. We don't realize somebody was carrying the weight of all that. We don't realize somebody was staying up late doing math at the kitchen table trying to make everything work. We don't realize somebody was absorbing stress so we didn't have to. Not always, but often, that somebody was Dad. The older I get, the more respect I have for things I never noticed. Not because my dad was perfect, because he wasn't. None of our parents were. There comes a moment, though, in adulthood when the superhero becomes human. Maybe it's when we have kids of our own. Maybe it's when we reach the age our parents were when some of our favorite memories happen. Maybe it's when we see them tired, worried, or uncertain. Whatever the moment is, eventually it happens. We realize our parents didn't have all the answers. They weren't operating from some secret instruction manual. They were figuring it out as they went. And strangely enough, that realization doesn't usually make me respect them less. It makes me respect them more. Because now I understand how difficult the assignment really was. Raise a family, pay the bills, protect your kids, prepare them for adulthood. Try not to mess them up too badly. And somehow do all of that while you're still figuring yourself out. That's a tall order. I think when we're young, we imagine our parents arrived fully formed, like they became adults overnight. But now I look back and recognize my dad was once a young man trying to figure life out too. He had fears. He had doubts. He had bad days. He had moments where he probably wondered if he was getting any of it right. And somehow, despite all of that, he kept showing up. Which may be one of the greatest lessons he ever taught me. Keep showing up. Not because we have all the answers. Not because we always know what we're doing. Not because we're guaranteed success. Just because people are counting on us. Sometimes, showing up is enough. Now I know not everybody listening had a dad who taught them these lessons. For some people, dad wasn't around. For others, the relationship was complicated. Others had bonus dads or foster dads. It's like I've heard some people say, any man can be a father, but it takes someone special to be a dad. So for some, there are parts of this conversation that may feel a little different than they do for me. But one thing I've noticed over the years is that life has a way of providing teachers. Sometimes it's a grandfather who stepped in. Sometimes it's a coach who believed in you. Sometimes it's an uncle, a teacher, a neighbor, a pastor, or a mentor. Somebody who showed up. Somebody who invested their time. Somebody who taught lessons without realizing the impact they were making. Even though not every child has the influence of a father, life sometimes provides that influence through a person with a different title. The values that those people carry today may not have even came from one specific person. Maybe they came from a collection of people who took the time to teach, correct, encourage, and invest. People who probably had no idea they were helping shape the adult they would become. Which is another reminder that we never really know the impact we're having on the people around us. Sometimes the lessons that last the longest come from people who never intended to teach them at all. You know what's funny? The older I get, the more I hear my dad coming out of my own mouth. I'll tell one of the 12 to clean up after themselves. I'll tell them to close their mouth and eat their food. I'll tell somebody to finish what they've started. I'll tell somebody to put something back where it belongs or turn off the lights. And halfway through the sentence, I'll think, well, there he is. Somewhere along the way, I stopped being the kid with the chore list. I became the dad writing one. I stopped being the kid holding the flashlight. I became the dad asking one of the 12 to hold it. And for the first time, I understand why. Because parenting isn't just about getting the task done. It's about teaching lessons that may not make sense for another 20 years. It's planting seeds you may never get to watch grow. It's helping children develop muscles they'll need later. Responsibility, integrity, perseverance, work ethic, gratitude, and the ability to do things that need doing, whether they're enjoyable or not. Those lessons don't usually happen during the big moments. They happen in the ordinary ones, in the driveway, in the garage, at the kitchen table, on a Saturday morning while washing dishes, while mowing grass, while carrying groceries. That's where legacy gets built. Not in speeches, not in highlight reels, not in grand gestures, in repetition, in consistency, in everyday moments that seem completely forgettable at the time. And maybe that's why so many of our parents' lessons don't make sense until we're older. They weren't trying to teach us something for that day. They were teaching us something for decades later. Something we'd need when life got hard. Something we'd need when responsibilities piled up. Something we'd need when people started depending on us. And now, standing on the other side of those lessons, I find myself grateful for things I once complained about. Grateful for the chores. Grateful for the expectations. Grateful for the standards. Grateful for the man behind them. Not because he got everything right, but because he kept showing up. And if I can pass anything along to the 12, I hope it's some version of that. Not perfection, not greatness, just faithfulness. The willingness to keep showing up. Because looking back, that's what my dad was really teaching me all along. I just needed a few decades to understand it. As I sit here thinking about all this, the great white whale is exactly like it always seems to be these days. Covered in a thin layer of ballfield dust, packed with chairs, gloves, bats, and enough empty water bottles to supply a small village. Tomorrow, the 12, they'll be asking for snacks, scattering toys, leaving lights on, or trying to convince me that whatever chore they've been assigned can definitely wait till tomorrow. Now, let's be honest. They'll probably roll their eyes a little when I tell them to clean something up, put something away, or finish what they started, just like I did. What they don't know yet is that I'm probably not teaching them about cleaning, organizing, or chores any more than my dad was teaching me about mowing grass or taking out the trash. I'm trying to teach them responsibility. I'm trying to teach them consistency. I'm trying to teach them how to keep showing up. The same things somebody was trying to teach me. Maybe that's how legacy really works. Not through big speeches or dramatic moments. Maybe it gets passed down one ordinary day at a time. One reminder, one expectation, one lesson hidden inside a seemingly boring moment. And maybe one day, years from now, the 12 will catch themselves saying something to their own kids and suddenly recognize where it came from. Maybe they'll hear a familiar phrase come out of their mouth. Maybe they'll understand a lesson that didn't make sense when they first heard it. Maybe they'll realize somebody was preparing them for life long before they knew they needed it. Because looking back, that's what my dad was really teaching me all along. And now, whether I mean to or not, I'm teaching it too. Thanks for listening. If you're enjoying these episodes, hit that share button. Like, subscribe, and follow on all your favorite platforms and socials. I'm still enjoying putting them together. So until next time, this is Jesse's Jabber, outnumbered, overstimulated, and on the mic. Drive safe, hug your people, teach life lessons, and we'll talk again soon.